Simon, can you make it more tinier?
Hi everyone, can you hear us? Yay! All right.
Then to it, but
Thanks for joining today.
okay.
We've got a pretty full agenda, which is awesome. Does anyone want to say hello if you're new to the call or new to the project? Anything you want to share, introduce yourself?
I'm old to the project. I'm old to the project.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and segue into what we're covering first while I pull up your slides? Actually.
So the Istio dev team has been doing a bunch of things, but one thing we focused on for a week was fixing various kinds of tests in Istio, everything from unit test to integration test to end-to-end test. And we call that the fix-it event. If Louis wants to give.
Don't you love it when you walk in and like you're immediately put on the spot?
Happened yesterday. Are we presenting the slides today?
I'm pulling up the slides right now. I just it's hard to, when you have multiple slide decks that all have sailboats, it's hard to identify which one is the right one.
Yeah, well.
Are you all seeing the slides? Can you give us a thumbs up if you're seeing this? Yep, thanks, Spike. Okay.
Stars.
Yeah, they're seeing the slides. The hangout is apparently.
That one.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it does look at it. Got my attention.
No, it's not a bomb. I don't know, I guess it could, but.
Yeah. Anywho, slides are up. You want to talk about the awards?
Are they?
They are up on the Zoom. I'm trying to get them to show on our side as well. Especially if you want, you can. I was going to say, you can also join the Hangout.
Yeah, so we ran a fix-it 2 weeks ago now. And people manfully struggled to fix bugs in the system. People put a lot of effort in. We managed to make some progress on bugs. We probably did find more bugs than we fixed, so
anymore.
Oh, okay.
I can't hear us.
No, the slides went away.
Okay.
You had them up and you switched over to your Hangouts tab.
You connected your screen.
Yeah, I have. Okay, let me try this again.
No,
that's the wrong one. There we go. You see them now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
But you're not like presenting or anything. There's still all the browser.
You can see my 500 tabs.
Yeah.
What slide should we be showing?
We can.
What went well?
What went well?
Yeah.
Do you see the what went well slide?
Is anybody there?
Is there anyone? Okay, thank you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we had a lot of people contribute to the fix-it, a bunch of folks here, folks at IBM and Red Hat and Cisco, which is always nice to see. We managed to improve code coverage, not by a huge amount, but by any increment of code coverage is definitely good. We labeled a whole bunch of issues for the fix-it. Oh, there we go. And we got about a third of those closed. And over 80 PRs submitted, and roughly 70 of those have been checked in, with some PRs specifically focused on improving code coverage, some fixing flakiness, and whoever was on call last week was a superhero. I mean, not the week before was a superhero, because being on call during a test fix is probably, well, very, very, very busy. And yeah, obviously lots of people pitched in on the on-call channel because there was just no way one person could have answered all those questions. All right, so there you go. What didn't go quite so well is that several of us, me included, tried to write tests and had a bit of a struggle getting to be to the point where we could be productive. I actually spent most of my week trying to set up a local development test environment. One, because I knew that would be hard, and I was deliberately doing it so I could make that my contribution to fix it, but I didn't manage to get anything. I learned a lot. I definitely have some things that will be useful, but it's going to take more time. And so there's a number of things that are coming out of that that are actually going to initiate a kind of test SWAT team effort to make the overall testing experience easier, and onboarding will be a big part of that. But you know, it's our second big fix-it, and you know, the product has gotten bigger and there are a lot more people, so this is not surprising. But yeah, we need to work on it. Okay. So we have a number of different kind of prize categories, going to different people based on their contributions. One was kind of just improving the visibility and operations of the development and test infrastructure. And our winner here is Andy. Andy, can people see Andy? Wave down in the room. You managed to triage a whole bunch of issues and also helped to develop the leaderboard for the fixes itself. Honorable go to Andrea for triaging a whole bunch of issues, and Sakshi for triaging a whole bunch of the PRs that were coming in. So Andy gets a not bomb. Whatever you want to use it for.
Some whiskey.
And one thing is, everyone who participated will get an interesting.
Bring that.
Yeah. So we in addition to the glass. The wonderful glass globes, the honorable mentions get a.
Oh, that's pretty.
A little Istio boat candle holder thing. It's
pretty.
So we are diverging from the usual. We're going to give everybody a Google Home. The de facto honorable mention by the Google.
We're sailboating all the things.
So we're trying to give more priority this time. All right, next category. So we obviously a big part of fix-it is understanding the problem and reviewing the solutions without actually writing the code, just helping people understand what they need to do and helping them once they've written the code to fix it. And our winner here is Laurent with 28 issues filed and some here for you. Honorable mentions go to Doug and Oliver. As runner-ups in this category. Yeah. So you will get
everyone who participated gets a candle. There's no prizes for honorable mentions.
It's the Oprah moment. How are we going to get the candles to Cisco Red Hat?
I'll show them.
Okay. All right. So it's not quite a full Oprah moment, but it's pretty close. All right. Actually, fixing the things, writing the code, maybe fixing tests. So we have. Winners in categories for end-to-end tests, load tests, and integration tests. Doug won the end-to-end test category. Doug. Jose at IBM wins in the load testing category. And Sunny wins in the integration testing category. I don't know if Sunny's on the call, but if you are, Sunny waves. All right, no, he's not. All right, next category. All right, so not just fixing tests, we also want to fix actual feature issues, small issues. Are often fixing small issues is as important as fixing big issues because it affects the overall quality of the product. So our winner in total number of issues fixed is Oliver, again. Thanks, Oliver. And our winner in the number of PRs category is Joy. She'll be up there in Kirkland. Joy, do you want to give away? There. Honorable mentions, again, Laurent here with 6, and Tao with 6 clothes. Also getting their lovely candles. And then we had a separate category for kind of, high impact fixes. There were some kind of special issues identified, and if you're willing to take them on, and you're kind of guaranteed to get a prize. So Jason and Mandar get prizes for the most impactful fix. And my memory is not that good when it comes to GitHub issues. I'm not going to attempt to guess what those mean.
So they're generally going to help with a few minutes save in the end-to-end test pipeline for each run. So its overall impact is going to be pretty significant because every time you run a test, you want to save a couple minutes.
Oh, yes. So they're the most complex test failure defined quad. Sorry.
I still make a big, but Mandar knows about.
Yeah. So this was I can update it, but this was the end-to-end test for failing, and finally the problem was incorrect port, but it led to a huge kind of debugging session. So that was that.
And then I guess we have a category for the most clever or crafty fix to improve testing. Again, I don't remember what that one was.
So this is there's simple fields that were added to a bunch of. No one can explain it better than
it's about the readiness, like trying to improve the way we know that it's okay to start running a test as opposed to just fail the test because things are not ready. So
it also exposes a bunch of different logs which were not seen there before. So
there was also a bunch of eventually failure conditions, but then it would just say nothing. It would just say the function failed to execute as expected, and now it says which one out of the 20.
Okay, yeah, so that's not what we do.
It's simple.
Good job, Zach. Zach's currently in London. I don't know if he's known or not. But
no, because I think they're actually speaking at the London Istio meetup like right now.
Yeah. I was trying to Zach. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Next. All right. This is the GitHub handles of everybody who participated.
For whom all the candles are. If you did participate and we were not able to figure out using GitHub, feel free to reach out to me and I can send you a candle. We just want to make sure everyone's participating. And GitHub is the best way to participate. So try to make sure your presence is felt over there.
Okay. So obviously, going forward, obviously we want to have make fixing tests easier, make the test infrastructure better for people who don't necessarily need to run a special fix-it. Teams are welcome to run team internal fix-it to working groups. If you want to run a fix-it, let April or Saksha know, and we can help you out with some swag. But we just want to make sure that we build a good development culture around testing, and we'll probably be running another big fix-it at some point prior to the one I release. Suggestions welcome for prizes. If you all want a giant stack of Google Homes littering your house, then we can certainly make that happen. But we're also more than happy to take suggestions for prizes that people feel would be slightly cooler.
Like a real sailboat, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll actually hand out a full sailboat, but there are certainly places you can go where you can go on a sailing trip for a day. I've done one of those in San Francisco Bay before in the America's Cup boat. That's pretty cool. That's a really fast sailing boat. Very faster than many speedboats actually. So there are things like that we could do.
I think we should do a hackathon on a boat. Wi-Fi might be a problem, but it's fine.
Yeah. For those of you who don't live near a giant waterway or harbor, we'll have to figure something out.
Come visit.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks everyone. I really appreciate all the hard work that went into the fix it, and yeah. And a special thanks to Sakshi for doing all the organizing and Andy for running the leaderboard.
And thanks to Swell and Rory to actually pay for all the stuff you guys are getting.
It costs $5.
No, the actual award costs a bit more. You'll see a person.
All right. I guess we have to sit down now. Do we have anything else on it specifically on the agenda today?
We do. We have a pretty full agenda today.
All right.
Next, Paul from Cisco is going to talk about his POCs for the IPv6. I don't know if Paul's on. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm on. Hi.
Okay, great.
Well, let's see. Try to share. Can you see the screen?
We can.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I did a proof of concept to sort of see how Istio would run with an IPv6 environment for the pod network. Oops, no background noise. And so, my goal was just to sort of see what kind of readiness we had. I really intended on just sort of seeing, if basic operations would work. I did the minimum I could do to try to get things running, hoping that it's sort of a starting point for us to add support to Istio for IPv6. Just for a little bit of background, with Kubernetes, we have IPv6 support in 1.9. It only supports IPv6 only, not dual stack. It makes use of the DNS 6.4 and NAT 6.4 to get access to IPv4 only sites. And we have it working with the Bridge plugin. Obviously, there's other plugins that it works with as well. For setting up a development environment, there's kubeadmin, which you can set up manually, just like you set it up for IPv4 mode. There's also a tool called DIND, that we've been using here at Cisco, and there's other companies that are using it. It was made by Mirantis, where it runs Kubernetes cluster inside of a single machine. So it essentially spins up containers for each node and then runs Kubernetes on that cluster. So that gives you sort of a way to run things in a sort of a compact environment. I, on the other hand, wanted to run things on bare metal nodes, which I had. So I made a tool called LazyJack, and I have some information on that if anybody's interested in it. And it's just sort of a simple provisioning tool, helps you provision up the bare metal nodes and do the hundreds of things that need to be done to just get things set up and ready to go. So I can spin up a cluster in about 5 or 6 minutes, and a lot of that is just waiting for kubeadmin to do its normal thing. So what did I do? I had a 3-node system, and I set it up with Kubernetes. I happen to use 1.10.0 beta 2, mostly because I want to use that system for other things like running end-to-end tests and things like that. It's using the IPv6 mode setup. So all the pods, the service network, everything is IPv6 within that. And then I grabbed the latest from master. I cloned a repo on March 5th, and then made changes, should we say, to try to get the code to come up and get everything to work. And so what were the results? Well, the good news is it works. I mean, I was able to get it to work. The code changes really weren't too bad. Really some small things. And again, this is just minimal, just get it working. There's certainly much more that needs to be done, but there was enough to just get it going. Some of the bad things were, some really small things made a huge change on the unit test. I hit one case where I changed, there were 2 constants, and that ended up changing 17 golden master files. So that was a little bit sort of dicey. And then the only ugly thing there's some pieces that are not really quite ready to have this kind of IP mode flexibility. A case in point is there were a bunch of templates that created YAML files, and the YAML files all had, 127.0.0.1 for IP address associated to ports that they were using. So, that's something that sort of needs to be worked out. So what I'll do is I'll just show you just a quick, what I have on my setup. And then I can talk about some of the things that I did here. I'll come back to this slide to show you. So this is, I'm on the master right now, and you can see I have the just basic Kubernetes up, and you can see all of the nodes, all of the pods are running with IPv6 addresses. I just have sort of this internal network that's going. And I have a sort of a backup slide if anyone wants to see what the network setup is. And so I'll bring up Istio with the thing that I have here. And obviously I'm going to cut and paste because I'm just really lazy. Let's just.
There, go ahead.
Can you make the font a tiny bit bigger? It's a bit hard to read.
Okay, let's see. This is Xterm. Xterm. What's the font?
Command plus.
Is it going to work? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Is that? Hold on. Hold on. Oh no. It made it larger, but is it within the window? Yeah. Is you able to see that now? Is that a little bit better?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Move your window.
Yeah, I'll scooch it over here to the corner. Is that better? Hopefully you can see at least what's needed to be seen. So I just wanted to make sure. So right now we've got, I guess I can make the window a little bit. Yeah, okay. That's fine. So we have all the pods are up and running. I'll just switch over to this one. So now what I'll do is I'll kick off I'll kick off the book info app here. So I'm just using Node port on this, and I'm doing. Oops, we did that twice. Hopefully that won't be an issue. So let's just wait for this to come up. We'll wait for book info to come up. It'll just take a few minutes. There we go. It looks like everything's up. So if we look at this, so now we should be able to run the curl command. I hope you can see the bottom of the screen. Are you able to see the very bottom, or do I need to move that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Good. So you should be able to then access like the product info page by using the service IP on this thing at 9080 product page. And we should be able to get to the product page that way. And then let me see, what was the IP on that again? Hold on a second. 6F4E. So let me, since we're running this again, 6F4E, and then obviously this is just a browser that I'm running. So these systems are all running as servers, so I just happen to have a VNC viewer onto that box so that we can come into this, and you can see that we're going to the product info, so you can access the page, and we're doing everything with v6 addresses. So that's one, and then the other one, I think I can kick off the hello world thing. It's the same kind of deal. Whoops. Oh, sorry. Let me grab it here and paste that in, and then let's get pod thing. Let's wait for that to come up. It might take a few seconds here to come up. Okay, and then look at the service, and then same thing, we should be able to curl to the hello world's IP at 5,000 and say hello and see that we get version 2. We run it again. Eventually here we're going to get version 1, I hope. There we go. So you can get version 1. So that's essentially bringing this particular cluster up, getting Istio running, and using IPv6 for things. So what I did was I created a bunch of issues for problems that I saw when I did the proof of concept. And I've started to work on some of them. This 4095's merged, 4096 I'm in progress on. I'll grab 4097 next as well. And certainly a bunch of the other ones, as you can see, I have quite a few. Anybody wants to grab them. Some of them are very simple things. Some of them are going to take, I think, a little more work. And then the other thing I did was this audit of the code. So essentially, I just went through and did a bunch of greps. This is something that we did with Kubernetes and found places where, it was making calls to 2.4 and places, parse IP, to find places where IPv4 was being used. And those are places that we could then investigate and create additional issues to resolve any other areas. Because there certainly are many more areas that maybe aren't getting exposed by this particular example that I run. So, one of the things that I'm thinking of as an approach is to do what Kubernetes did, which was that sort of did an audit, went through and gone through the whole infrastructure and find places where it looks like it's v4 and making it v6 capable. And then once we get it to the point where everything, it'll work as v6, then we can start doing end-to-end tests and updating the docs to say, yeah, okay, you can call this with a v6 address instead of with the v4, and you can set this up with v6 addresses. One of the big things that sort of needs to be figured out is how to determine the IP mode. Currently, Kubernetes is sort of doing it by inferring what mode it's in based on the cluster seeder and the API server address that's being used on the cluster. But certainly, if you move towards like a dual stack, you won't be able to use that as a mechanism. So we'll need to have some form of dealing with like a config for that. And then certainly there's all these templates, YAML files that right now are sort of hard coded to using IPv4 addresses for like local hosts and any host, and that we need to sort of deal with that. And then there's other things that I want to try, like trying the Calico plugin and trying load balancers and authentication and stuff like that. And then once Kubernetes gets to dual stack, we certainly want to do that as well. And then just for reference, I can go over to that browser window page if you want, but I have one page there which talks about this LazyJack tool. And this is just a tool that lets you sort of, you run these command line commands to set up provision your bare metal servers. And then I created a blog for this whole process of trying to bring up Istio with IPv6 and what I found problems. And then I did a fork of the Istio tree here in my repo and on a branch called IPv6, which has all of the changes that I made that sort of hack things in. And I have all the sort of the commits for that. So I think I have, let's see, somewhere here. Yeah, so this is just, like quickly, this is just the blog for the things that's sort of saying, this is what you do, this is how you set it up, using the tool and all the different things to go through. This is information on this LazyJack tool. And then, and obviously the LazyJack tool, I have that's on GitHub. So there's detailed instructions on sort of how to run that. And then for the repo, which I can Istio. I thought I had that already. I should have my IPv6 branch and then the commits that I have on there. So these are each one of what I did to Hello World, book info, just some cleanups of different things. So some of these I've already sort of done already. This bottom one I've done, and this one I'm working on right now. So that's the kind of thing that I have. That's it. So if anyone has any questions.
Quick question.
We're unmuted.
Did you get link local to work as well?
For link local, as in what?
As in using link local addresses of other endpoints of nodes.
The way that they have it right now in Kubernetes, you can set up those. You can set up the IPv6 addresses to whatever you want. I've used ULA addresses. I've had other people use global addresses as well. So we've done both of those. I haven't done anything strictly with link local.
Link local is special because there's the interface address inside. I mean, it's a crazy syntax with interface.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we sort of do something similar to that because of the issue with IPv4. So that one of the problems is there's some sites like GitHub doesn't support IPv6 yet. So if you're like pulling images and stuff, you have problems. So that's why for the IPv6 only scenario, the way they have that working is via they use the NAT64 and DNS64. So this is sort of like the topology that we have. So essentially they're using NAT64 to gain access to v4 sites. And then what we do is, we use that embedded v4 embedded into a v6 address for all of the addresses on this, the IPv6 addresses on this network.
So is this like a dual home setup, or is it like a logical segmentation of the network?
I missed the beginning of that. I'm sorry. What was it? Is
it like a dual home interface, one on the IPv6, the other one on IPv4, if you require both kind of network accesses?
It's purely inside of the cluster. It's purely IPv6. So everything's IPv6 inside the cluster, and then what we have is we have a NAT64 server running in a container that provides access to the outside world to give you your external access and to give you access to v4 only sites. So essentially this NAT64 will take addresses that we have on the pod network and if we're going outside, like I guess maybe the quickest way to show you that is I could say kubectl exec let me do this actually. And, I'll just bring up an okay, wrong command. Okay. Okay, so hold on 1 second. I'll show you. Get pod. So we should. Okay, as soon as that comes up. So you can see. Okay, there we go. Kubectl exec -it. Let's just grab one of these guys. So like here, if I want to ping 6 google.com or something. So essentially what you'll see what it's doing is it's going to the DNS server, which is that DNS64 server, getting that DNS64 server is then going to go out to the go to the NAT64 server and go out to do a remote DNS to obtain Google's IPv4 and IPv6 address, and then it's going to get that information back. It's going to take the v4 address, which is this, and then embed it inside of a v6 address and use that inside of the network. So that's how we're accessing. So this is the v4 address encoded into embedded into an IPv6 address. So that's sort of the scenario that it's going to go over to the NAT64, go out. This NAT64 just has an internal private network that it maps the v6 addresses to v4 addresses that it has. So it'll end up mapping these internal addresses to some outside address. And then it relies on NAT44 to get to the outside world. In our lab, we get that way.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for the demo. That was really awesome to see, Paul.
Yeah, it's good to sort of get the first step there. It's a baby steps.
Yeah.
So, actually, I have a small question. Since testing is a team, how easy it is to test this on the current infrastructure? I mean, can we adjust some simple external services or without all the complicated setup? I mean, I know that setting up a cluster with IPv6 only is kind of tricky.
How easy is it to test?
I mean, with the current test, I mean, you have normal developer, normal IPv4 machine. Can we have some configurations with some hard-coded IPv6 addresses inside that may not work, but to verify that we can load them or
on a v4 machine?
Yeah, I mean, for example, just have some services that have IPv6 addresses, external services, and verify that, you know,
I don't
viable or
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
No problem.
Most machines have IPv6 now, they at least locally, right? So
They have
the local environment should be able
local
to do
address.
IPv6.
They get
colon one.
Okay, we'll dig into it.
Does it require IPv6 at the physical layer level as well, like on your physical topology diagram?
Well, so on my systems here, you have to have IPv6 enabled. Like I have IPv6 enabled on those machines, so that they can deal with IPv6. But the outside connectivity, for example, these machines that I'm on, they happen to have IPv6 addresses that can get out, but they don't need to. You can do it on a machine that only has, outside world access to IPv4, and that's something you can do with this Docker and Docker as well. So you can take, on a Linux box, you can take and run Docker and Docker. As long as you have IPv6 enabled on the box, it doesn't have to have IPv6 to the outside world. And literally with like Docker and Docker, you're on a machine that has a v4 address outside, and the cluster is all done inside a container. So it's all v6 in the containers. But the machine itself has to have IPv6 enabled.
Okay.
Which almost everybody does nowadays.
Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
So we have a question in the working doc. I'm not sure who posted it here. If you're on the line, the question was about briefly comparing development experience between Minikube and GKE. Not sure if the person who asked is here or if anyone on the call wants to share any thoughts. Okay, I'm going to vote we table that so we have a little more information on the question. Looks like the next few things Julian was raising. Julian, do you want to talk about, or I can, can we have a brief status about egress with Istio? Seems that this feature will be depreciated in 0.8.
So the egress resource is replaced by a combination of external service and gateway and the new APIs, logically. The next release 0.8 will have support for both APIs at the same time, along with hopefully a tool to help people convert resources and a way to gradually roll out a shift from using the v1 alpha 1 APIs to the v1 alpha 3 APIs. So basically, if you have a bunch of config that you care about, you should install the 0.8 release when it's ready, and that's the release you should go through to do the upgrade. But the behavior of the feature is definitely not going away. The way that that feature is expressed is definitely changing to make it more flexible and more useful. Hopefully that makes sense to people. If there's some specific questions about egress behaviors, I'm more than happy to talk about it, or talk about it in the network working group meeting as well. I know some people have questioned like configuring egress to support HTTPS. That's something that's actively being looked at. Being able to configure egress so you go through a middle proxy that is covered logically by the APIs, the new version of the APIs. There's a variety of other things that people have, users have asked about. So hopefully that answers people's questions. And if it doesn't, either pipe up here or come to the working group.
It looks like Julian doesn't have a mic, so one of his other questions was, I quickly tried to deploy Istio on AWS EKS preview without success. How can we discuss or offer help? Christopher commented, is there an open issue with the problems encountered? But I don't know if anyone else on the call or anyone else has seen something similar or is interested in getting involved.
I don't know if anybody in this room has tried to run it with EKS. I'm certainly interested to know.
Yeah.
And if there are specific issues, we'll certainly happily help work through them. But I don't know if there's anyone else in the community who's taken a look or who's gone a little deeper.
No one that wants to admit to it, apparently. I would say, like Christopher pointed out, file an issue, and then that's a good place for people to collaborate and recruit some other folks to test it and try it out. There's also a question about having issues with labeled good first issue in order to start developing for beginners. This is something that Kubernetes does. And then Christopher commented, we do have a label, but we probably don't use it as much as we should. So that's some good feedback for all of us. We can kind of go through and review some of those and highlight what would be a good first issue. So thank you for that feedback, Julian. And then in the chat, looks like we did a link to Zach yesterday, did a presentation on the Cloud Native Online Meetup, and he talked about some of the changes expected for egress. So that would be a good one too. And I know Matt records those. So hopefully the recording is on the website as well. And then we're looking for a link to the info regarding the egress config changes. Do we have anything documented yet, or?
Sorry, they're looking at which?
Anyone have a link to info regarding the egress config changes in 0.8?
So there's a lot of discussion on the PRs around the networking API changes as they relate to egress. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can go look.
So it sounds like look at the pull request.
That's the best place to work. There's also pretty thorough, well, there's reasonable inline documentation in the schema change for the API.
And Lauren's putting some links to good first issue tags, which is awesome. All right, that's everything we had in the doc. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want to comment, share?
So I see these messages posted on the chat window. Are they, once this session is closed, are these messages going to be available as well? The ones which are posted on the chat window, or?
Yeah, so for the links that are there, we can move those over to the working doc as well. And then that way they live in the working doc, because that is a good spot for everything going forward. But yes, we get a file with the chat. I can either copy paste the chat into the working doc or just copy the relevant parts. But I will do that. Thank you for raising that. That's a good thing we should do. So I'll look for that to be added to the working doc here shortly. Basically, when I close Zoom, it'll create a file that has the chat in it. Anything else? Looks like Andrew is talking. Oh, that's right. I knew Andrew. We had talked about that. So Julie and Andrew posted a link there if you want to connect with him to talk about some of that stuff. And Julian got it. Great. Anything else? All right, then I guess everyone gets 11 minutes back in your day. Just a quick shout out. I know a lot of the IBM folks are at, I think, this week. I'm sure they're terribly missing us all while they're in Las Vegas, which is just awful and boring. So boring. And we've got a lot of great stuff that's going on in the Istio community right now. So like we mentioned, London is meeting right at this exact moment to talk about all sorts of Istio funness. And then we've got a meetup here in the Bay Area next Wednesday. It'll actually be here at our Google offices. So I fully expect everyone in the room to be there happy. But Nginx is going to talk, and I totally put Mandar on the spot, and he was wonderful and stepped up, that he'll do a quick kind of overview of releases and what's coming and what just went out. So if you're local, do attend that, and then check the working doc. There's a link there for the community calendar, and that's got a bunch of other events. I know there's some stuff happening in Colorado, and I know there's a lot that's coming up in April as well. So do reach out if you've got any events planned or know of any events planned and want it to be included on the calendar. Happy to give you permissions for that, and we'll get it out there and get the word out. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.